Hi there, I'm Mike Gales for Everlast Nutrition. And if you're new to boxing, then you may hear coaches telling their fighters to use angles, and that may leave you wondering, what exactly are they talking about? Well, boxing has been called the sweet science, and in fact boxers are great at both geometry and trigonometry. And to get your fists a little more educated, let's go over a beginner's guide to some of the angles of boxing. The first angle you should know is the angle at which you face your opponent. If you stand square facing your opponent, well then that exposes a lot of surface area that is directly in the line of fire of your opponent's punches. And so right off the bat, the first angle you should consider is to aim your lead shoulder towards the center of your opponent. Now to do that, most people think that they're just going to turn themselves sideways, but that's not going to do it. Just standing sideways with your feet in a straight line, like this, will leave you with terrible balance and very little leverage to throw your own punches. So the next angle that you have to know is to have your rear leg off to the side so that your feet are diagonally apart with good weight distribution. Now that your lead shoulder is pointed towards the center of your opponent and your feet are angled properly to keep you on balance, if you're a beginner, then you might want to keep your hands up. More importantly than having your hands up is that you should angle your shoulders up high enough to protect your chin. Once you're angled correctly, you're going to notice that your lead arm is closer to your opponent, and that's going to make it easier to land quick jabs. You'll also notice that your rear hand is further from your opponent, which gives it enough distance to fully accelerate to land power punches on a target. You'll also notice that the rear foot is also angled so that the heel remains off the canvas, which will help you increase your mobility. Now I'm going to leave a link in the description below that will teach you all about your proper boxing stance. So next, let's talk about the angle of the punches. You have the jab and cross, which travel in a straight line towards their target. You also have your hooks, where the arm is bent at about 45 degrees, and those punches travel in an arc-like motion to hit their target. You also have uppercuts that come from underneath at a completely different angle from the other punches. So you have your jabs, crosses, hooks, and uppercuts that all come at different angles. Yet each one of those individual punches themselves can be thrown at a different angle in both the vertical and the horizontal plane. And I know you may be thinking to yourself that a punch is just a punch, and so why does the angle at which it is thrown even matter? So let me give you a simple example. I'm about 6 feet tall and my opponent here is 5'9". Now because I'm a little taller than him, I'm going to aim my punches over the top of his lead arm, because the shortest distance between 2 points is always a straight line. And because I have the advantage of height, I have the angle to deliver those punches safely. And angling my punches over top is a safer option than bending at the knees and trying to go underneath his lead arm, because that puts my face directly in range of his punches. Conversely, here my opponent is just about 6'4", and I can't reach to angle my punches over top of his lead arm. And so I'm going to angle my jab under his jab so that I can easily reach his face. Now if I was trying to land a follow-up overhand right or right hook on him, I could try reaching for the shot, or even step in to close the distance, but that might smother my shot and I won't have very good leverage. Instead, by using angles and stepping towards the side to switch the angle of the shot, I can easily hit him to the head. And I'll use the same principle to land a follow-up body shot after the jab. Instead of reaching or stepping in close, which could smother my shot, I'm just going to step over to the side and switch the angle, which once again will give me much better leverage. I could throw a jab and step in straight with a right hook, or I could throw a jab and step over to change the angle for the right hook. It may not seem like a significant difference, but the angle at which I throw the punches can have a huge impact on whether they're going to land or not. Here's another example of trying to land a lead hook against a taller opponent. Most people try to angle the punch around the guard of his rear hand, but his greater height makes that a little difficult to reach. But here I alter the angle of the hook so that it goes between his guard. And because I throw the hook at that particular angle, it makes landing a shot to his face about 6 inches closer, and thus much easier to hit. Finally, if I throw punches at a certain angle, like angling my jab downwards towards his body, well, I leave my chin vulnerable to counter shots, as that angle leaves my face open. A better option would be to switch levels and throw the jab at a straighter angle that still sees my shoulder protecting my chin. Another angle to consider is the angle of your opponent. If you're fighting an orthodox fighter who leads with his left hand, I, being an orthodox fighter myself, will circle to my right so that I can take the direct angle away from his rear hand, which is his power hand. By staying on an angle just outside of his lead hand, I can stay relatively safe. So to the best of my ability, I most often keep my lead leg angled outside of his lead leg. Conversely, if my opponent is angled in a southpaw stance, meaning that he leads with his right hand instead of his left, I will more often than not circle to the opposite direction, which is to my left, to stay away from his power hand, which in this case is his left hand that he keeps to the rear. And so once again, I will keep my lead foot angled outside of his lead foot as I circle to my left. Angles may not seem important in the beginning, but if I stay in an angle where his punches have the most leverage, which is the red box in this clip, then it can really hurt me. So it's in my best interest to adjust my angle of attack to where I can hit him with full leverage, but to where his punches will have as little effect as possible. Another point is that in close quarters, I can alter the angle of my attack so that my punches are much more effective at getting through his defensive shell. Next, we're going to quickly take a look at some defensive angles. I'm not normally quick enough to box like this, but for the moment I'm going to keep my lead hand down so that you can see my lead leg and shoulder are angled towards my opponent, and my shoulder is angled to protect my chin. If my opponent starts to throw a barrage of punches, I'm going to try and move my head out of the angle of their attack. I don't want to just sit there and let them punch me in the face, and so I'll leave a link in the description below on how to slip punches. And even better yet, if I can, I'm going to move my feet to pivot and change the angle of my retreat. Now, if you can, you don't want to retreat by going back in a straight line, because your opponent can move forward a lot faster than you can go backward. So as you retreat, you're better to pivot off to an angle, because that's going to force your opponent to reset. And during that split second where he does reset, he may be open to counters. Finally, let's take a look at the angles of the ring itself. Because even though it's called a boxing ring, it's not a circle, it's actually a square. And as such, the square does have corners, and you can use angles to cut off the ring and trap your opponent into one of those corners, which will greatly limit his mobility and his path of retreat. Now, I'm also going to leave a link on how to cut off the ring in the description below as well. Finally, because the ring is an enclosure, it's in your best interest if you can to control the center of that ring, because by controlling the center, you can use a simple pivot to alter the angle of your attack. And because your opponent knows you have a better angle on him, he's going to feel uncomfortable, and he's going to want to move by stepping to the side to get outside of your angle of attack. So if you have the center of the ring, one pivot can equate to 5 steps from your opponent. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but add up all of those extra steps over the duration of a 12-round fight, and once again you have math working in your favor. This has been Mike Gales for Everlast Nutrition, and if you like these videos, then please click below to like or subscribe, as we're constantly posting out great tips and new ideas that are meant to get you into the absolute greatest shape possible.